Welcome to Arjun Bhagat Decodes, and today we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and who doesn't know him? Mr. Kant, thank you so much for giving us this time. My first question is, it's the Prime Minister's NDA's third term in office. It seems to me that a lot of that energy and enthusiasm that there was in the first two terms, you had missions, you had Make in India, that energy seems to be missing. Is that something to worry about in terms of, big ticket announcements or large infrastructure projects?
No, I think there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of push towards growth. There's a lot of accelerated development. The announcement of the 12 new industrial corridors, the announcement of many missions, as you said, the artificial intelligence mission, the mission for quantum computing. There's a mission for semiconductors, which has led to a lot of investments in India, and the green hydrogen mission. But more than that, the government has announced a 1 lakh crore scheme for research and development. And I think there's a huge thrust on housing. So we've done about close to 40 million housing already. And the Prime Minister has announced another 30 million housing. So there's a thrust on road development as well. We are the only country doing about close to 8 airports and about 30 kilometers of roads every day. So huge impetus on growth and development.
Right, but perceptually, I don't know, maybe it's the narrative. It just seems that the government is just not doing enough. But, coming to Viksit Bharat, we have 23 years to achieve India's development goals. Do you think that this is an achievable target given that, there are geopolitical circumstances right now? They always are, but at the same time, we have agrarian distress. There seems to be large unemployment in India. Are we on the right track?
So let me first clarify that perception, because we had an election. We're in the midst of several elections in Haryana, in Jharkhand, in Maharashtra, J&K. But irrespective of the elections, the government is pushing a lot of developmental agenda. Every cabinet meeting, you see a lot of new impetus to growth and development. As far as Viksit Bharat is concerned, GDP right now is 4 trillion. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. In another 2.5-3 years, we should be the 3rd largest economy in the world. But our aim is to become a $30 trillion economy by 2047, which means that your GDP must grow 8x, 8 times, and your per capita income, which is about 2,700, needs to go up 9 times.
So, very ambitious targets. So what do we really need to do?
So you need to, first of all, focus very strongly on making India a very easy and simple nation. States need to become easy and simple. Secondly, there has to be a huge thrust on manufacturing, because that will create good quality jobs. Thirdly, urbanization is a very big driver of growth. So you need to urbanize in a very big way. Fourthly, I think agriculture productivity must rise in a very big way, because our productivity levels are low. The population dependency on agriculture is 46% on agriculture, which is very high compared to any other country. And lastly, I would say that you need states to grow. You need 12 states to grow at about 10% plus for the next.
Yes, you talked about champion states. So can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
So, in the past, India has grown largely on the back of Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. But now you need states like UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and these are all mineral-rich states. You need Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, these states to grow rapidly, because these 50% of population of India is dependent on these states. And if these states grow rapidly for the next 2.5 decades, then the story of India's growth story will be hugely growth with equity. That means we'll be providing good quality jobs to people in the heart of India. And that is very critical. So you need these states to grow. But if India needs to grow to become a $30 trillion economy, you need 12 states to be growing at 10% plus year after year after year.
So,
for 3
in your wide experience, I mean, you've been working with states, you've been working with different countries. What's holding our states back? Why is it that some are more progressive and then others just don't seem to get their act together?
So I think the political culture is critical. The importance of growth good governance must become good politics. The PM has repeatedly emphasized good governance. One of the key of his focus has been on data for good governance. When we did the aspirational district program, we were able to transform 112 of the most poor districts in India. We never call them poor, we call them the aspirational districts. We were able to transform them simply because of the use of data. We were putting out results in public domain. They were competing with each other. Everybody knew who's going up, coming down. And therefore, competition pushed transformation. And we saw a huge improvement in learning outcomes, in health outcomes, in nutritional standards. That is what the states need to do within themselves to bring in good governance and see that officers remain there for a period of 4 to 5 years to do transformational work in their respective districts, and people are able to become agents of change in these states. But you need manufacturing to come in, you need better infrastructure, you need better human development index, and you need better governance, of course.
Right, you talked about officers, and and you are the architect, and you've been part of so many successful programs, whether it's Incredible India, Make in India, Ease of Doing Business. What about the Indian civil service? I mean, you belong to the tribe of the IAS, Indian Administrative Service. And then we have the All India services, the allied services. The structure and how the civil service operates hasn't really changed in the last 75 years. And whenever we talk about accountability, we talk about new initiatives, corruption, there's always pushback, whether it's political pushback or it is a pushback from the officers. Unless our civil service changes and reforms, how can Viksit Bharat be achieved?
A lot of reforms have been done in recent times. The Mission Karm Yogi of the Prime Minister has equipped officers for better equipped them for delivery on ground. There's vast number of training programs. There's greater enthusiasm. There's greater motivation. And you see this transformation delivering in many, many areas. And officers actually want to work in the districts. Most officers would like to be agents of change. You may have one or two cases of, in a large amount of recruitment, you may have a few cases, but by and large, officers remain very motivated. They remain dedicated. They need good leadership. There's optimism. You need, they want to be agents of driving India's growth story. So I'm very optimistic about the officers, and really, in the last few years, there's been stability of government, and the government has provided good leadership to drive change in India. A lot has happened in India. You needn't feel so despondent, because India's built, 40 million houses, which is like making our own Australia. We've built about 130 million toilets. We've built about 88,000 kilometers of roads. We've done 253 millions of people. We've provided piped water connection. We've, made radical changes. We're the only country growing at about 8.2%. There's nothing to feel despondent about.
No, one is not despondent at all. But what happens is when you achieve...
I think we should feel very positive. We should be very optimistic.
Right.
We should be never... You're sounding terribly despondent. I feel very optimistic.
No,
I feel very positive.
At all. No, I'm not despondent at all. I see my country changing. I've seen the kind of work all of you are doing, and I think it's fantastic. But when you achieve the kind of numbers that you have achieved, the expectations also go up.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about those expectations. At the same time, we've done amazing work, and I'm the first one to say that. But unemployment is still a major factor. I think government statistics say we have about 4 to 5% unemployment, but private, or the think tanks say it's about 9%. We have a large youth population. Expectations are going up. you've bridged the digital divide. The information is much more. So the aspirations.
So let me just put it in a perspective that what India has achieved in terms of infrastructure creation is unparalleled. What India has achieved in terms of lifting people above the poverty line is remarkable to my mind. To lift about 25 crore people above the poverty line. What India has achieved in terms of providing digital identity and then leading to fast payment, credit, insurance, all this on the basis of digital public infrastructure, which is open source and open API and globally interoperable, is totally unbelievable. And during the G20, other countries could not believe what India has achieved. So India has really pushed for structural reforms. India has pushed for digitization. India has pushed for infrastructure creation. And now India is pushing in a very big way for a green economy. So India has done a lot in the last few years, and we need to keep pushing the goal and keep pushing the momentum. And that is why the Prime Minister set the goal of a Viksit Bharat by 2047. He feels that the next 2.5 decades are critical for India's growth story. And therefore, all ministries are aligned. All of them are working to drive this change to make India a $30 trillion economy and raise the per capita income of every single Indian. And that will happen only if everybody is aligned to that goal, which in government today, if you talk to any civil servant, and since you were talking about officers, everybody's vision is the same, that we must become a developed economy by 2047.
Right. So let's talk about, Make in India. You were one of the architects, of course. Let's talk about SMEs and, medium enterprises, and also about women empowerment. What do you think, Make in India has contributed towards uplifting these three different kind of sectors?
So one is Make in India focused on ease of doing business. We've scrapped a lot of rules, regulation, procedures. We've done away with about 1,700 laws. Then it focused on opening up the foreign direct investment regime, and FDI grew from about 40 billion to about 84 billion in 22-23. And then it improved the patent regime, which used to take about 76 months, has brought it down to about close to 12 months, and the trademarks are now given in 3 to 4 months. But I think the critical thing has been the production-linked incentive scheme, which has driven manufacturing, particularly in the electronic sector. And that has created a lot of jobs, particularly for the women. Apple today is doing about almost close 18 to 20.
Yeah, that's a massive success.
So the jobs it has created is largely for women. And if you look at the new PLFS survey, the women's labor participation ratio has substantially jumped up, which is a good sign for women. But more than just the Make in India, I think the other remarkable thing has been this huge growth and impetus to the self-help group movement in India, led by women in a range of areas, from agriculture to handloom to handicrafts. A huge movement of women in that area. But I'm a great believer that women-led development is critical. We need to put women into positions of power and authority. We need to drive change through better learning outcomes and health outcomes and improving nutritional standards of women in a very big way. And that implementation is presently on in a very big way. If you look at many of the states working radically hard to improve the quality of implementation on ground in some of these areas.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about infrastructure. You touched upon that. We've made a lot of strides, whether it is our highways, whether it is, whether it's the ports, airports. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot of work has happened into these areas, and it's already showing. So one is very positive about that. But what would you say are some of the gaps? I remember you had worked very closely in the freight corridors. That process is still continuing. We haven't been able to make all the freight corridors functional. And it's been, I think, 15 years now?
No, so a lot of work has been done. Actually, the dedicated freight corridors, the east and the west corridors, are now functional. You had new cities like Shindra, Bitkin in Maharashtra. You've had Dhulera in Gujarat. These are completely new greenfield cities which take about 30 to 35 years to make. Even Gurgaon and Noida took 30 to 35 years. So making new cities in 10 to 12 years is a remarkable feat to my mind. And the government has now announced 12 new corridors, industrial corridors, which will see the emergence of new industrial city. And this is being largely done because India is going to see a huge amount of urbanization in the coming years. You need manufacturing-led development. So this will be walk to work for workers. And you will see a lot of new destinations getting developed as a consequence of that. So infrastructure has been actually one area where infrastructure is developed on the back of government capital expenditure is our roads, our railways. We've seen close to about 30 kilometers of road per day. We are doing about 12 kilometers of railway lines per day. But I think the most remarkable thing in India that has happened on the infrastructure side is that we've been able to do 200 gigawatt of renewable energy. And we've been able to bring down the cost of renewable energy very sharply. And the fact that our ambition is that today we import 170 billion worth of fossil fuel. But by 2047, we should be an exporter of clean energy by exporting green hydrogen and
And that was one of the key take-home points as far as G20 was concerned, right? You were able to bring all the countries together on sustainable development.
That's right, on Green Development Pact,
right,
which only India could have achieved by bringing G7 emerging markets, Russia, China, all together on both the Green Development Pact and the Sustainable Development Goals.
How important are alternate energy sources for India and to become a leader in them?
Oh, very critical. I'm a great believer in moving towards cutting-edge technologies which are green in nature, because 2023 has been the hottest year in the history of the world. 2024 will be hotter than 2023. So today we import 170 billion worth of fossil fuel. We should actually be an exporter, as the Prime Minister said, of clean energy by 2047. We should produce green hydrogen at low costs, bring it down from $4.5 to $1 and become the biggest producer of green hydrogen, the largest exporter of green hydrogen in its liquid form, ammonia, and be the largest producer of electrolyzers in the world. And we have a massive potential of doing renewable energy. We are climatically blessed. We should actually be a producer of the entire value chain in India. And to my mind, really move from fossil fuel to clean energy in the years to come. It's also important that we clean up our cities, we move towards electric mobility, we go a whole hog in ensuring that our two-wheelers, three-wheelers and our four-wheelers all become electric by 2030, and we are able to move towards the use of green hydrogen for long-distance transport.
What about imports from China? Imports from China continue to grow. You recently wrote about the fact that we should not be worried about this so much. We should be able to import, at a cheaper rate and then value add then export. Explain this to the critics, because one keeps hearing the same criticism about, we are importing more from China. We seem to be missing the larger point.
See, the important point is to be a leading exporter. No country in the world has grown without exports. Every time India has grown, it's grown on the back of exports. Now, exports means that you have to be an integral part of the global value chain. And global value chain means that you must be able to import at the lowest cost without tariffs, because those are inputs and components getting into your process of manufacturing. You manufacture here and then export to the rest of the world. Now, if you put a lot of duties on imports, your exports will become very expensive. You will never be a part of it, global value chains. And therefore, you need to import cheap and manufacture and export. But over a period of time, over 4 to 5 years period, historically, it has shown that when you start exporting, you also start doing value addition in a country. It can't be done overnight, but over 4 to 5 years, the components also start getting manufactured here. So China was a very big importer from Japan. It was a very big importer from Taiwan. It got these companies to manufacture there as joint ventures, and over a period of time,
they built that ecosystem.
Yeah, they built the ecosystem. And I think that is the process which is presently on in India. With a lot of PLIs, you're seeing manufacturing happening here. And over a period of time, all the components will also get manufactured here. So I foresee that this is a work in progress.
So it's a graduated approach.
It's a 4 to 5 years time, you'll see India emerging as a major manufacturing nation.
Right. Recently, you wrote a very interesting piece. I think it came out in the Times of India, where you have said that India really needs to enhance its economic partnership with the US even further, especially in AI technology, semiconductors. You gave the example of Shakti. What can be leveraged further as far as the US is concerned?
See, important thing to realize is that America is just 4% of the global population.
Right.
But it accounts for 26% of the global GDP. It also accounts for about 44% of the market capitalization. So it's a highly innovative society. It's also a wealthy society. So when you export to America, you get about 4x of what you get in the domestic market. And therefore, countries like Japan, Taiwan, Korea all grew out of exporting to the United States. So I've been a believer that we need to work with the United States on cutting-edge areas of growth. If India needs to accelerate the pace of its growth, it needs to get into cutting-edge areas of growth. It needs to be in electric vehicle manufacturing, it needs to be in AI, it needs to be in quantum computing, and it needs to get into a range of cutting-edge areas like semiconductors. So one of the key outcomes of the Prime Minister's visit was this Shakti, the semiconductor fab, which will actually be supplying fab from here, chips from here, to the US military.
And that's as early as next year.
In another 2 years.
Right, 2 years.
By 25 end, but it'll supply both to the US Army and the Indian Army. So from a collaboration with US. So we need to build that collaboration across a range of areas, including small modular reactors, including AI, including quantum computing. That collaborative partnership on cutting edge areas of innovation has to be strengthened even further. But this is a very, very good and a path-breaking move.
Right. So you've been a great proponent of manufacturing in India. What about the service sector? I mean, locally we are taxed 18% as far as the service sector is concerned. I mean, whether it's my company or it is a saloon, that's a massive tax. I mean, if you look at the US, I think many states don't even charge you service tax, but they probably charge you 4 to 6%. It's a huge disincentive as far as working and creating your business is concerned. Why aren't we looking to leverage the service sector? It's a multiplier of jobs.
So India has grown largely on the back of services sector, right, because we didn't tax the IT sector for about a decade almost.
No, I'm not talking.
My view on this is that the process of rationalization of GST is on. We've replaced several taxes and cesses to build up a digital GST, which has done very well. It's been implemented well. It's growing month by month by month. And I think it's a tax where the center and the state governments have worked together. It's a very, very much innovative process. And I think some of these issues are being reviewed by the GST Council. So this rationalization and the simplification of that is a work in progress.
Right. I have, 2 more questions for you. You're the man behind Incredible India, the campaigns, and you also wrote books like Branding India, Incredible India 2. But when it comes to attracting tourists, we seem to be doing a really poor job. I mean, I'll give you the statistics of the Travel and Tourism Development Index 2024. It just came out by the World Economic Forum. India is ranked 39th amongst 119 countries. I mean, we have some of the most spectacular ancient monuments, culture, natural heritage places, and yet we seem to be, lost as far as getting tourists from abroad is concerned. I mean, and a lot of people say it's actually you don't feel safe in India, the infrastructure is not good enough, women's safety is a huge concern. I mean, how would you I mean, you specialized in this. You worked in the state government with Kerala. God's own country was one of your creations. I mean, what an incredible campaign that was. What are your thoughts on this?
No, I entirely agree with you. There's massive potential for tourism. It has huge multiplier impact. It has huge potential for job creation. Kerala demonstrated that it can be a very major job creator. You have to take tourism up the value chain. There's no country in the world which has more heritage, which has more civilization, which has more strength of its assets as India has. But I don't think you should look at it in terms of the number of tourists. We should look at it in terms of the total value being earned.
But even that's not really.
Yeah, but India is still a long way to go.
Try to showcase it in the G20. I mean, you had some remarkable.
So I really think that tourism can be the next big story of India. It has massive potential.
And that's another area which is overtaxed.
The Prime Minister has been talking about it, but I don't think tax is a major issue on that. But we need last mile connectivity. We need better air connections. India has huge potential in this sector.
Safety of women.
Yeah, this is an area where states need to work. Much like Kerala created its own brand and Madhya Pradesh worked very hard. Beyond Rajasthan, Kashmir, Kerala, there are not many other destinations which promote and market themselves. The states really need to go out and market themselves. You need to create a...
So what would you advise?
I really think that the state chief minister should really say that their state is really, the tourism, tap into the vast tourism potential of their respective states and promote and market their states in the international markets. There's huge potential. Domestic tourism has grown hugely during the COVID period and post-COVID. But now you need to get in a lot of high value international tourists into India, which I think states are not doing at the moment.
There seems to be some reticence there. I really can't understand why. But, I want to talk about another subject which is very close to your heart, which is art. Your wife, Ranjita Kant, is a well-known artist. Basically we are now in a very tech-driven world, and art is also revolutionized in so many ways. Now, in fact, I'm told from the statistics, the global art market is worth some $500 billion. And how do you think India can become a bigger player, a major global art market, given her rich art traditions? And also, we do have a matured contemporary art movement which is going on. We have certain galleries who are doing great. Indian artists are selling for millions of dollars, but it's not become mainstream in India in that.
Yeah, we have some of the most outstanding artists, really top class. We need to promote and market them, much like the Chinese artists. Their values have gone up enormously because the Chinese diaspora has been buying their art. Many Indian diaspora have been buying Indian artists' work, particularly in the western part of the world. But we need to expose our artists much more to big galleries across the world and to big buyers across the world. This is a huge potential. We also need to participate in leading biennales across the world and put our artists there very significantly. And that's something which is very critical. I think art is a huge market, and that, along with tourism, that can be the next big potential. The software power, the soft power of India is very important. And, the hard part of India, one understands, but the soft part of India, particularly its art, its culture, its tourism, part needs to be tapped in a very big way in the coming years. If we want to be a $30 trillion economy by 2047, which is our aim, the soft power bit is a very important component of it.
And finally, what's next for Amitabh Kant? I mean, you're the G20 Sherpa right now. G20 was an amazing success. And everyone's talking about it. What's next for you?
So I just want to relax. I want to chill. I want to do some exercises. I want to play.
And you're looking pretty fit.
I want to play, and I want to just take life easy. I've never.
When do you play?
I play golf, and I play about 3 days a week. But I do exercise every day.
Right.
And I believe in keeping myself intellectually, physically, and mentally fit.
Great. So no other major projects right now, or you just don't know about that right now?
So, well, I'm not a very ambitious person. I just leave it to my destiny to play out, and let me see where life takes me.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Arjun Bhagat Decodes. It was great talking to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That's a good.
Yeah.